It's all come down to this. 1 week from now, the Overwatch League playoff picture will be set in stone, but there's still a lot to be decided in the coming week. This video will give you the rundown of the Overwatch League playoff picture heading into the final week, where all the teams are, and how every team could or couldn't get in. Before that though, let's refresh ourselves on how the playoffs are determined. Out of 12 total teams, 6 will qualify for the Overwatch League playoffs. The winners of the two divisions, Pacific and Atlantic, will qualify for the playoffs and earn a first round bye. The remaining 4 spots will be taken up by the teams with the best record, regardless of division. But how is this determined? First, of course, overall win-loss record is used to determine placement. If 2 teams are tied, then map differential is used. If the teams are tied after that, their win-loss ratios versus each other will be used. If the teams are still tied after that, then a tiebreaker match will be played. With that out of the way, let's take a look at the teams. First, let's take a look at the Shanghai Dragons, Florida Mayhem, Dallas Fuel, and San Francisco Shock. All 4 of these teams have a negative win-loss ratio, and therefore are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. They will not break the top 6 no matter what. Sorry guys, maybe next season. Now, let's take a look at the top of the standings. With a record of 33-5, the New York Excelsior are miles ahead of everyone else in the league. They secured a playoff spot and the Atlantic Division crown long ago. They will have a first round bye in the playoffs. The Pacific Division has also been decided. The LA Valiant, with a score of 26-12, have a 3-game lead with 2 games to go. Therefore, they also claim a first round bye. The Boston Uprising were the 3rd team to secure a spot in the playoffs. With a record of 24-14, they cannot follow the top 6 and will make the playoffs, though their seeding still has yet to be determined. This leaves 5 teams still competing for 3 playoff spots, and this is where things get interesting. The London Spitfire currently sit in 4th place. They have a record of 23-15 and a map differential of +31. They face the Mayhem and the Fusion next week. The Spitfire are still not guaranteed a playoff spot, but it's basically guaranteed. They have the best map differential of all the other teams by far, making it almost impossible for them to lose in a tiebreaker. In order for the Spitfire to fall out of the top 6, here's what has to happen. The Spitfire have to lose both of their games 0-4. They cannot win a single map. The Gladiators and the Fusion have to win at least 1 game to jump them in the standings. And finally, the Houston Outlaws have to win both of their games 4-0. If all of this were to happen, then the London Spitfire would fall all the way down to 7th, losing out to Houston by just 1 map differential point. But since one of the Spitfire's games is against Florida, I give them a 99.9% chance to make the playoffs. The LA Gladiators are currently in 5th place. They have a record of 23-15 and a map differential of +18. They face the Dragons and the Dynasty next week. The Gladiators control their own destiny. If they win just 1 game, they're in the playoffs. If the Dynasty and the Outlaws lose a game, they're in the playoffs. If they lose both of their games, the Fusion win at least 1 game, and the Outlaws or the Dynasty win both of their games, then it gets hairy for the Gladiators. Their map differential can easily be overcome, which would knock them out of the top 6. Luckily for them, they're being served a softball in the form of the Shanghai Dragons this week, and can crush Seoul's streams after that. So I give the Gladiators a 98% chance to make the playoffs. The Philadelphia Fusion are currently in 6th place. They have a record of 23-15 and a map differential of +13. They play against the Outlaws and the Spitfire next week. For the Fusion, it's pretty simple. Win 1 game and they're in. If they lose both of their games and the Outlaws or the Dynasty win both of their games, they will be knocked out due to their poor map differential. Unless the Gladiators do so bad that they fall below them, but we talked about that, that's not happening. The Fusion have a tough week ahead of them too. Houston is desperate to get a win to keep their hopes alive, and London is always a tough opponent. Of the teams currently in the top 6, this is the team that is by far the most vulnerable, but honestly that's not saying too much. A lot of things still have to go wrong for the Fusion to get knocked out, and they have the chance on Thursday to secure their spot in the playoffs while ending Houston's at the same time. I give the Fusion a 75% chance to make the playoffs. The Houston Outlaws currently sit in 7th place. They have a record of 21-17 and a map differential of +16. They play the Fusion and the Excelsior next week. Houston is on the outside looking in right now, but they still have a measure of control over their own destiny. The Outlaws game against the Fusion on Thursday is crucial. If they lose this game, they give up their playoff spot while also securing a playoff spot for the Fusion. Win this game, and they still have a chance. They would then have to win over the Excelsior and hope London can beat Philly. If this happens, they're in. They can also get in if the Gladiators go 0-2 instead of the Fusion, but that's asking a lot of the Dragons. Impossible? No, but the road ahead is very tough. I give the Outlaws a 20% chance to make the playoffs. Finally, the Seoul Dynasty, currently in 8th place. They have a record of 21-17 and a map differential of +13. They're up against the Fuel and the Gladiators. The Dynasty have a tough road ahead if they want to get into the playoffs, but here's what has to happen. Firstly, they have to win both of their games against the Fuel and the Gladiators. Tough games, but possible. Lose one, however, and they're out. They have to hope that Houston beats the Fusion on Thursday, but loses to the Excelsior on Friday. Finally, they have to hope that London beats the Fusion. If all of this happens, then they're in. They can also get in if the Dragons beat the Gladiators, but, well, you know. In the end, the Seoul Dynasty have 2 rough games ahead of them. They have to win both of them, and then hope that 3 other games that they don't control at all go their way. So I give the Dynasty a 5% chance to make the playoffs. And that's it! Hopefully after watching this video, you have a better understanding of the Overwatch League playoff picture. I wish all the teams still in the hunt the best of luck, and don't get tilted. Peace!